13 love, 13 knowledge, 13 wisdom, 13 respect. This is your creation 13. So thoughts on God. I was born and raised in a Christian home. So that's what I was taught was God. And then to get to God, you have to have Christ within your life to connect back to God or back to the Father. I really only learned that element through the churches, right? Through religion. If you go into other countries, right, it goes into a whole different process, and worshiping is a lot more used in other countries. Here worship is used, but in a different way. That's more of a cult setting, or just a monkey see, monkey do element, right? But putting God in the mix of everything, right? We view God, at least how I used to view God, was that God was way out there, right? Where we couldn't even reach God. We couldn't reach heaven. We couldn't grasp that element until you passed away, right? But as things evolved over time, and I had my awakening in 2010, my views of God changed. But ever since I was a child, I had a relationship with Christ. And that has continued to build more and more and more, right? Because Christ to me is a friend, a mentor, a leader within my life. I can communicate with this entity, and I have evolved with this entity, right? And my faith with Christ and my relationship with Christ has continued to build more and more. So going back to 2010 with my spiritual awakening, I really had a whole different understanding of what a creator is, right? Or not just the one-dimensional element of what a creator or what God is, right? We're taught that God is everything, and God is in control of everything. But as I hear about the in control of everything, we really are still living in a realm of limitless possibilities, but also in a realm of playing in a game or playing in a book. So you're going to have these trials and challenges that are going to come in the playground, and you're the character. So my thought was always, if God is in control of everything, theoretically that means that I should be sitting back and watching things, but you're living in this reality and you are making choices and decisions, aware or unaware, right? You're making the choices and decisions. And as I was doing my deep research, learning root words, which have really gotten a lot deeper the past year, we have a lot of different things going on. So, it's no secret now, but, we got the Elohim, which is within the Old Testament. It's just the Elohim, which is plural, which means more than one, right? More than one God. For some odd reason, in the English translation, it says a single God, but in the root words, it is multiple entities. It gets really interesting because we deal with the beings of the In and the Inji. Those are within the Old Testament. So what are these beings, right? The In are fiery beings. They're light beings, fire beings. It's very, very fascinating. And then you go into the New Testament, and then you're introduced to a character named Theos. And Theos has to do with time, and that gets in a whole different ballgame. So we're not looking at a single entity known as God, because God, G-O-D, is an early or a later version of a translation, right? Just like the letter J is a lot later. So God is a lot later. So you should theoretically be either going to Theos or Elohim, but it gets even deeper than that as well. So when we dig deep into the translations, the root words have a whole different language than what we're taught. The origin of Christianity is taught by the Vatican, and it has adapted into Christianity and Mormons and things of that nature, right? They're branches, and they've kind of created more of a human element of what Christ warned us about, right? Creating these settings and things of that nature. So as a whole, viewing God as single is impossible, but you have to go with the feelings of how do you feel when you're communicating in the spirit realm, right? You're communicating in the spirit realm, you're communicating with unseen entities. So whether you name it God or you name it Christ, things of that nature, it's going to be the spirit that you feel, the familiar spirit. Look at the root word for that as well. It's going to be that familiar spirit that you're aware of, right? Because what does familiar mean? It just means that you're familiar with a smell, you're familiar with the atmosphere, you're familiar with that state, you're familiar with that spirit or that ghost, right? People don't like to look at the mechanics of things. People just like to have the monkey see, monkey do element and just assume that that's how it is, and assume that there's nothing more than that. Assuming, right? Never assume anything. Discover. If you've never discovered how to communicate with spirits, then theoretically you've never really talked to God, and you never really talked to Christ, because you're talking with spirits that are intelligent and have a voice that you will hear, they will guide you through. People focus so much on a book, they've never had the spiritual or supernatural experience. Until you talk with Spirit of God or the Spirit of Christ, you're really just reading a book that's telling you things to do, but you're totally missing out on the supernatural and all the magical elements of what we're made of, right? Because we're more than this meat suit. We're a lot more than this meat suit, right? This meat suit wouldn't even be functioning. This golem body wouldn't even be functioning without a spark of life, without the breath of life, without that spirit or without that soul that enters into this golem, in this vehicle, this meat suit, to experience life, right? And just what is this? It's so much more. But basically at the end of the day, go back to the root words, right? Like I said, God is a later word that was generated and created by the Vatican to keep things singular, when in actuality everything is plural. What you look at the translation, eSword is really a good program to download. It's just E and then sword. And you'll learn a lot about the root words. The Elohim, the Ins, the Injis. There's a lot of entities within there that help. There's even the nymphs that are in there that really blow my mind. And a lot of women spirits are in there as well that are really hidden deep within the translation. So you really learn that there's a whole kingdom of spirits and creators or architects that help us through life. It's not just a singular voice or a father figure, right? Because that creates the dominance of one element, but you're missing the parent element, father and mother, right? And when you have the father-mother element, then you get into that state of unity and understanding of balance of the right and the left, and you begin to merge the father and mother element together, and that creates what? A child. And who is that child? You're that child at the end of the day. So I'll leave it at that. So that's my views and understandings of what God is, and I encourage you to do some research for yourself. Never assume anything. All books were written by human hands at the end of the day, and a lot of times the translations are distorted to meet a selective agenda that can really imprison you and keep you away from your sovereignty and your relationship, not only with the creators, the architects, but also with deities that aid you, like Christ. So love yourself, keep shining bright. I'll talk to you all later.